Hey everyone, welcome. So buckle up, because today's explainer is going to take us on a seriously fascinating, kind of mind-bending journey. We're going to take a biological function that, let's be honest, most of us consider vulgar, embarrassing, or just completely off-limits to talk about, and we're going to flip it. We're transforming it into a profound metaphor for life, complex systems, and even human dignity. If you think you already know exactly where to find wisdom and truth, well, prepare to have those boundaries totally shattered.
All right, let's just jump right in with a famous and admittedly jarring Zen koan from Master Unmon. Ready? Buddha is a dried shit stick. Now, at first glance, I know that sounds incredibly offensive, right? Like, no way he just said that. But what's actually happening here is this brilliant, deliberate use of cognitive dissonance. The Zen master isn't actually insulting the Buddha at all. Instead, he's basically taking a sledgehammer to our rigid, preconceived notions of what counts as holy or pure or worthy of reverence. He's completely shattering this illusion that truth only hangs out in pristine, elevated spaces.
And that brings us to a highly provocative question. Can pooping literally lead to enlightenment? I know, it sounds like a complete joke, but we actually need to approach this with absolute matter-of-fact sincerity. Because think about it, to achieve true enlightenment, or a real understanding of the world, we can't just stare at the stars. We have to deeply observe even the most basic, messy, and totally taboo physical realities. If we can't find truth in the everyday mundane stuff, then we haven't really found universal truth at all.
So, to get there, here's the roadmap for today's explainer. First up, we'll unpack that whole Buddha is a shitstick idea. Then we'll hit level 1, systems, move into level 2, humanism, and climb up to level 3, the way. Finally, we'll wrap it all up with a brand new vision of life.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, Buddha is a shit stick, shattering illusions. We really have to start with the idea that this phrase is not some crude insult. It's actually a direct, targeted attack on a super narrow mindset. The kind of mindset that firmly believes truth, wisdom, and the divine can only exist in things that are sparkly clean, beautiful, and heavily decorated.
You see, this perfectly highlights the trap of what we could call religious aesthetics. If you genuinely think you can only find enlightenment in the sweet smell of burning incense, or the ringing of a temple bell, or looking at a perfectly pristine lotus flower, you are totally missing the fundamental structure of living phenomena. It's like mistaking the wrapping paper for the actual gift inside. Truth absolutely has to exist everywhere, especially in the lowest, messiest, most undeniable parts of our physical reality.
Moving right along to level 1, systems, biological machines. To ground all this abstract philosophy in some cold, hard logic, we need to completely strip away our judgments and look at the human body for what it essentially is. It's a highly complex, brilliantly designed biological machine.
Just think about it for a second. Human digestion is basically a strict algorithm. First, we have an input. That's the food we eat, the water we drink, literally even the emotions we feel. Then there's a process, digestion, absorption, the whole health of our gut microbiome. And finally, you get the output, the waste. It's exactly like writing computer code or, running a national economy. If you have a bad input or a glitchy process, it is inevitably going to lead to a disastrous output. It's just pure systemic logic.
Now here is where it gets really fascinating. This whole process completely proves that value is totally relative. In the enclosed system of the human body, waste is a toxic output. It absolutely must go. But shift the system just a little bit. In an agricultural ecosystem, that exact same waste is incredibly valuable fertilizer. Drop it in a medical laboratory, suddenly it's crucial health data giving us clues about disease and diet. What is literally toxic garbage in one system becomes biological fuel in another.
So the huge takeaway here is simply this: nothing is absolutely meaningless. Value depends entirely on the system, the time, and the user. And honestly, understanding this adaptability, that is a real superpower. It helps us completely reframe our own failures, our discarded ideas, or even people that society might label as misfits. They aren't inherently worthless at all. They might just be incredible assets that are waiting to be placed into the exact right system.
All right, leveling up to level 2, humanism, shared reality. So we're shifting gears now from the analytical world of systems straight into the realm of empathy, ethics, and the unavoidable shared reality of the human body.
It is so easy for lofty ideologies to just completely forget our physical bodies. We love to talk about high morals, grand civilizations, and elite philosophies. But the reality is, Every single philosopher, every king, every tech billionaire, and every holy figure is, at their core, a biological system. And if you don't fulfill those basic physiological needs, like eating, breathing, and having a safe, clean place to excrete, well, all those higher moral and civilized values instantly collapse. I mean, you can't exactly be a deep, pondering philosopher if you are desperately searching for a bathroom, right?
And this really reveals the massive societal footprint of this super basic biological need. When a society fails to provide clean, accessible facilities, who suffers the most? It's the elderly, it's kids in poorly funded schools, women during menstruation, disabled individuals who can't access standard stalls, or factory workers who are managed so strictly they aren't even allowed a bathroom break. Denying this fundamental function isn't just a minor inconvenience, it is a profound act of inhumanity that literally strips vulnerable people of their dignity.
Because true humanism isn't just about writing beautiful poetry about the human spirit. True humanism recognizes that a person sitting alone in a restroom is actually plugged into this massive, invisible network. That deeply private act connects directly to civil engineering, urban design, agricultural supply chains, public health policy, and absolutely vital labor rights. Recognizing that interconnected web, that is Enlightenment Level 2.
Let's keep climbing. Level 3, the way, macro philosophy. Now we're zooming out to look at how this humble bodily function maps directly onto the ultimate universal law, which is known in Eastern philosophy as Tao, or the way.
Okay, we really need to demystify this concept of Tao. People constantly treat it as something magical, mystical, or completely beyond human comprehension. But fundamentally, the way is simply a pathway. It's the necessary path that allows any system to process, to flow, to continuously operate, and to transition from one state to another. It is literally just the fundamental law of movement and change.
And seeing it like this reveals the absolute macro toxicity of stagnation. I mean, what happens when the flow stops? Well, if you have a digestive block, you experience acute physical pain. If you have an information block, you get a totally ignorant, easily manipulated society. If you have a power block where leaders absolutely refuse to step down, you get a corrupt, decaying institution. A system that only ever takes things in and refuses to eliminate what it no longer needs will inevitably poison itself, every single time.
Survival absolutely requires letting go. Any living system, whether it's a human body, a huge corporate organization, or an entire culture, must constantly release outdated mechanisms, toxic thoughts, and useless waste. Figuring out exactly what to absorb and what to decisively discard is the absolute core of systemic survival. Honestly, the act of elimination is just as sacred as the act of consumption.
Bringing us to our final section, Section 5, Vision of Life, Reevaluating Reality. Let's tie this entire incredible journey right back to that shocking Zen koan we started with. We are going to totally reevaluate how we look at the world around us.
It really all boils down to this one contrast. On one hand, you have the lotus, representing traditional, rigid holiness. But if you just stare at it as a pretty symbol without any deep understanding, you learn absolutely nothing. On the other hand, you have the shitstick, representing the messy, crude, unavoidable reality of living systems. But by actually observing its inputs, processes, and outputs, you can uncover the ultimate truth of exactly how the universe operates.
So, enlightenment doesn't depend on the object you're looking at. It depends entirely on your capacity to see its operating system. Ancient texts say there are 3,000 paths to the way. That means truth encompasses literally all aspects of life: eating, sleeping, loving, failing, and yes, even pooping. Because truth is found in how we observe the mechanics of reality, not what socially acceptable object we choose to observe.
Which leaves us with this final kind of mind-blowing thought for today's explainer. If a basic, completely vulgar bodily function can genuinely teach us the deepest truths about biological systems, the absolute necessity of human rights, and the continuous flow of the universe, well, how are you going to choose to look at your everyday reality from now on? What other profound truths are hiding right in front of you, just waiting for you to look past the surface? Think about that for a bit and keep exploring.